Welcome. Are you ready to talk about done beats perfect?
Yes.
What does that look like? Does anybody have a thing they want to give a little bit of advice on that? What does done beats perfect mean? Nobody? Well, let's look at a day in the life of a parent that is teaching their child to clean their room. Has anybody ever felt like you have to go back after your kids when they clean the house? Or made the bed? Or loaded the dishwasher? Or left the clothes in the laundry? But it's done, right? It's not perfect, but it's done. What does that look like in your life? We have a group of speakers today that I am just blessed to be in association with. They're doing great things in this community. They love what they're doing. And I want everybody to give them a round of applause first. And I want you to give yourself a round of applause for showing up. It's important to show up. It's really important to show up at everything you do. So my first guy that I want to talk about is Mr. David Black. Does anybody know David? Yeah. He's a great cook. Not only is he a good cook, he enjoys cooking. But you know what he tells me? He is the most grateful. He's grateful and proud to be grateful of his life. How many of you guys can say that you're grateful? Even in tragedy, there are things to be grateful for. He also wants to be complete with everybody that's important to him in his life. That's huge. It's huge. So welcome, David Black.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us. I would like to share with you what the month of May means for me. I have numerous family members that celebrate birthdays in May, including my wife, and our wedding anniversary is also in May. I have so many memories in the month of May. The one that really stands out the most happened in 2009. We found out our mom had been sick and had been taken to the ER due to complications with her breathing. We headed to the hospital as soon as we received the news. As soon as I saw her, I started to ask her questions, anxious for answers. The nurses started to draw blood, running labs, and taking x-rays, and quickly found she had fluid in her lungs. The doctors came up with a plan of action to resolve the fluid buildup in her lungs and biopsy the fluid while they continued to drain the remaining fluid and admitted her into the hospital. We stayed as long as we could until the visiting hours were over, and they made us leave after the hours was over. It took a couple of days to receive the results to the biopsy. The doctor came into the room and broke the news to us. It was cancer. We all were stunned. It was as if someone took all of the air out of the room. I stared at my mom in disbelief. She asked someone to write down the date on the dry erase board. It was May 5th, 2009, the day she was diagnosed with cancer. The doctor indicated that the cancer was so advanced and had rapidly spread throughout her lungs. After a couple of days, she was released from the hospital and referred to a primary physician. So with our mom being out of the hospital, we celebrated with her. We invited tons of family and friends to celebrate with us. As time went on, to relieve my youngest sister, who was our mom's caretaker, every Friday. So on Friday nights, it was me and my mom. We would watch movies and reminisce when we were younger and all the adventures we experienced as a family. A couple of times she told me she was so sorry for some of the struggles we experienced. I told her it was okay. We're here and we're still alive. We made it. I then opened up and told her what I've been wanting to tell her for a while. I told her how much she means to me, and I thanked her for never giving up on us. I told her she was my hero. Then the room went silent, and I started to hear my mom start to weep uncontrollably. She cried harder than I have ever heard her cry before in my life. You see, I just didn't say, "I love you, Mom." I told her why. As we hugged and embraced, I told her she needs to know that. She was blown away from my why. You see, my mom was one of a kind. She was known to us by Mom, to her grandkids and friends, she was Granny. To many others, she was a loyal friend and a people and animal lover. She taught us to meet people where they are at in life. She also taught us not to judge people. So that is her legacy, being unapologetic about loving people, animals, and flowers, and all gifts from God. So with this, I would like to close with three things. The first one's going to be one of her favorite Bible scriptures. It's Isaiah 40, verses 31. But those who trust in the Lord will find new strength. They will soar high on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not faint. My question to you is, have you told that person your why? And I would like to close with this. Life isn't worth living until you have found something worth dying for, by Martin Luther King Jr. I'd like to thank you.
Thank you for sharing your story about your mom. We all have touching stories about somebody that we love, and it's great to talk about them. Talking about them is healing. It's healing. You know, perfection's kind of boring. It's the process. It's the journey to get there that's the fun. It's the growth. So let's go back to that kid's room. That bed, you got company coming, you made them make their bed, and it's all lumpy, and it's all pulled over to one side, and the mattress is showing on the other side. Do you fix it, or do you leave it alone? They did what you asked them to do. They have to learn for themselves how to do things. And who cares if the bed is lumpy? If we strive on what other people think, what's going to happen? You're going to destroy everything about you. So our next person that's coming up is Miss Isabelle Black. Known to most of us as Izzy. She's actually the founder of this. She has put all this together. I want to give her a round of heartfelt clapping before I even tell you a little bit about her. She's working hard. She's working really hard. She's completely turned her life around. For those of you that don't know anything about her past, I encourage you to get with her and talk about that, because she's special. She's taken all that hurt, all that anger, all that frustration, all that disappointment, and she's turned it into what she's doing now. And is it perfect? But she's getting it done. She's getting it done. She is a healer of humanity, and she means what she says. She's doing it. Her mouth is matching her feet. Can you guys say that? Is your mouth matching what you're walking? I had a problem with that in my past. I have to fix that. So welcome, Isabelle Black. Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for being here today on this beautiful Wednesday evening. So, activate your power now. This is a 12-month series. So we are in week 5, and we are just getting started, guys. So invite all of your friends, invite your family, because everybody seriously needs to be activated. And what we have found is when people walk in here, they don't even realize they need to be activated. They're walking into support, and we're getting the feedback of how they're being activated and sparked. They're hearing that voice within that's speaking to them, but better than that, they're choosing to act on it. And that's what this is all about. So seriously, thank you for being here tonight. I really appreciate it. We all do. Done versus perfect. How many of us wait until the perfect time
to listen to that voice that has been speaking to us forever. At the beginning of my journey, I call it my intentional journey, and it's what I started in 2017. But what that really was an awakening. It was a voice within that said, what you're doing is not working anymore. So what do you do with that when that voice is speaking to you? We tend to live our lives based off of our experiences, right? We navigate through life with goggles, with a vision of what we've experienced. So when we encounter people, we encounter them with how we've experienced other people before, whether that's their intention or not. I challenge you today to be the change in your life, and that will require 3 things from you. That is, 1, believe that change is possible regardless. 2, engage or take the first or the next best step regardless. And if you're curious about what regardless means, this means regardless of your circumstances and regardless of your past, because neither one of those is a good enough excuse for you not to answer your call to purpose. My journey to speaking, I would have never imagined that I would be standing on this stage, or any stage, speaking to a room full of people, let alone sharing my personal experience, my personal business. That is very, very vulnerable, and it is not an easy thing to do. But what I have found with this new journey is that when we share our experience and how we got through an experience, we motivate other people in acknowledging things in their own life that they know they've been needing to do something about, but they're waiting for the perfect time. I'm here to tell you that perfect time is never going to come. So I challenge you to start doing one thing different today. So in December, I stood on this stage for the first time to give, it was part of a graduation for a speaking class I took, so that I could learn how to be a good speaker for my business, because I was a new business owner. I shared with everybody my story of how I have constantly felt like I was running a race in life. And I was constantly jumping hurdles, and hurdles that I felt that I didn't even create in my own life. There were other people's hurdles, but I was running, I was tripping over them, I was falling on my face, I was jumping up, I was trying to clear them again, and these other people were just existing in life not even knowing that I was in this race. And they didn't care that I was tripping and falling. But when I stood on this stage in December, I realized that this journey was more than just me starting a business. This journey was about me doing my part to help heal humanity. And how I do that is by first healing myself. It's that simple. When you work on yourself and you choose to be your best and you show up in life as your best, you are changing the world. That smile you walk in with in the store while everyone's busy in their world, that smile can change somebody's life, and I know that because it has changed mine. Those smiles sometimes are what keep me going. So if you don't know anything else of what you could do to help somebody, simply smile. In January, I challenged everybody to destroy the lies and manifest everything they dream of. In February, we talked about unpacking your love baggage. March was a pot of gold. And I hope that you do know you have a pot of gold. But today, the reason I mention all of that is because today we are done beats perfect. If I would have waited till my business was running well before I started my new journey in speaking, or if I would have started a journey in speaking and said, oh, that's too tough to talk about, we can't talk about that, I would be doing all of you a disservice, but most of all, I would be doing myself a disservice, because I am a healer of humanity. And I am here to help all of you be activated. So I challenge again you today to choose to be the change in your own life. Believe change is possible, and engage, or take the first or the next best step. Thank you.
Great advice. Great advice. You know, there is really no such thing as perfection. It's only the beauty of brokenness. Because to get to that point of perfection, you try and you try and you try. But with each step, you get better and better and better. How many of you guys have practiced something that you wanted to do, like play a musical instrument? Did you just sit down at the piano and learn to play it? Or did it take time? I mean, there are people that can do that. I, however, was not one of them. I played piano from 2nd grade on, and I still can't play it very well. Not perfection. But I can read the music. I can read the music, which means I can hear the music. So in that process, are you hearing the music? The music's important for one of our speakers that's coming up a little bit later. But today we're going to talk about Edward Mitchell IV. He has a passion for helping people to see past the beliefs that hinder them from seeing their purpose, what their value is. We tend to put boundaries on ourselves. We tend to limit what we know how to do. And when you do that, you've already quit. He's a mentor, he's a coach, and he's nervous tonight. So we just make him a little bit unnervous, right? Give him a round of applause.
Thank you. One word, fear. We've come up with all kinds of acronyms to avoid fear. You know, there's false evidence appearing real, face everything and rise. You know, there's a lot of different acronyms. And there's actually nothing wrong with those acronyms. I want to start off by saying that. Some of those acronyms have actually helped me to get past my own fears and limiting beliefs in the past. But one thing that I want to say is that what if we acknowledge this word fear for what it actually makes us feel, instead of trying to find ways to avoid it? so that we can look at what's going on within ourselves instead of looking at the word as the source of our challenges. So if we look at fear a little bit, fear is often associated with pain, loss, disappointment, unmet expectations, regret, many other negative emotions. There can be many causes or triggers for what can bring us fear. But you see, the great thing is that none of those emotions, none of those triggers, none of those feelings are required to be permanent. They're often situational, and often that situation that causes the fear to well up inside of us is temporary. Once we realize how we can change that situation within ourselves, then we start to find the solutions for that situation that has been created outside of us. So if we were only here to talk about fear today, we could probably spend, a few days in here, maybe a week, talking about all the different things that we could be afraid of. But what we're going to focus on today is the fear of not being enough. There's a lot of things in life that can cause us to feel like we're not enough for something, not enough for someone. But how we're going to focus on that today is starting to talk about, where does that come from? What does that look like when that fear of not being enough starts to affect our daily lives? And how do we actually overcome that fear of not being enough? Because we can all think about something that causes us to be afraid, maybe something we're not enough for, but what we really want to focus on is getting past what that makes us feel like and how do we actually overcome that. So there's one thing that I know for sure is that we're not born with this fear. Have you ever sat and watched a small child trying to walk? Maybe a toddler, their first time going to the playground, they see all the shiny colors of everything, of the equipment. They have zero fear in their exploration. They have no concerns about what else is going on outside of them, whether they can do something, whether they can't do something. So that at least shows us that it's not something that we're born with. So then we have to start to look at, where does that fear of not being enough actually come from? So I know for me, I can tell you a small story. And I was in 3rd grade, and I remember my dad actually got me this Superfly jumpsuit. Now you're gonna love the way it looks. It was all one solid color. It was probably a burnt orange that was maybe a little bit brighter than this carpet. Superfly, I know you want it right now, you want to put it on. But I didn't get a lot as a kid, and so when my dad got me something that was like, it was a bomb to me, it was really important. And in 3rd grade, I would call myself semi-popular. I focused mostly on getting good grades, but I had some friends too. And so I walk in, I'm talking to my friends, I'm like, oh, look at this orange jumpsuit I got, my dad got it for me. It's the same on the top and the bottom, like I can't believe this, same color and everything. And so I was feeling really great, I was at my highest of highs at that moment. And there was this other boy in my class, his name was Andrew. Andrew was the most kind, the most sweetest boy I'd ever known in my life. He was always wanting to talk to people, always wanting to make new friends. And so there's literally nothing wrong with Andrew. I can't think of anything, even with my adult mind thinking back, anything that could have been wrong with him. But there was another group of boys in the class who weren't so kind, and they liked to make fun of Andrew because he had a high voice, nobody's that nice, he would be in weird things like that. So this particular day, Andrew walks in with the exact same jumpsuit on. Exact same color, exact same top and bottom. And I felt that highest of highs that I was feeling drop down to a lowest of lows. And the reason why was because I had developed a fear of not being enough for the group of friends that I'd been hanging around. And I knew that because they had been making fun of Andrew, even though he wore the exact same thing that I was so excited about, now I'm in the same category as him and I'm gonna get made fun of too. So I now have a fear of not being a good enough friend, not being a tough boy in the class anymore. And so that's one example. Actually, what that taught me, now that I think back about that story, was two things. One was, it taught me that I would never again allow somebody else to be bullied in front of me without standing up for them. The other thing that it taught me was that I wouldn't let people get close to me anymore, because I had overcome that fear of not being good enough for that group of boys that day, but now I had developed a new fear of if I allowed anybody to get close to me, then they could hurt me, because I may not live up to their standard. So the next point that we're gonna move to is, how does that fear of not being enough come into our adulthood? So like I started to say, that fear carried into my adulthood because I wouldn't let people get close to me. I got close to them, I'd be a great friend, I'd care about people, I would do things for people, but I would never let anybody get really close to my heart. And so that developed for me in a way of a lack of friendships. Some people, it can develop in a way where they have an abundance of friendships, but they're so superficial that they don't have any depth. And so we start to actually seek, are we enough from other people and other things outside of ourselves? So, one of the ways that can come up in relationships is even in our spouses. We seek someone else that can make us happy because we're not happy with ourselves. One of the questions that I want you to be able to ask yourself today, as you're kind of thinking about what things may I be afraid of, what things may make me not feel like enough, is what is the truth and why am I hiding it from them? And as you think about that for a moment, the truth is that thing that you truly desire, that you truly want to do, that you truly want to fulfill. And the reason why you're hiding it from them is that thing that you fear, and not being enough about. This is the starting point of overcoming that fear of not being enough. You don't have to focus on the end point of having a perfection of having no fears. What we want to focus on is getting that first step done. The second thing I want you to ask yourself is, where is my happiness tied up? You want to determine that source. Because if your happiness is dependent on anyone else outside of yourself, then that should let you know that there's a part of yourself that you don't know who you are. And it's very important that you start to discover who you are, because as long as your happiness can be tied up into any one other person or one other thing, then you are giving away the power to that person or thing to determine whether you can be happy or not. So I want to end with this and let you know that this is not something that you're alone in. This is something multiple people struggle with. Actually, even the reason why I wrote this talk to begin with is because I was dealing with the fear of not being enough in my own life. Not being enough for my friends, not being enough for my children, not being enough for my spouse, not being enough for my job. All of these different areas that I realized that my happiness was tied up in those things and people. And I had this empty space that I didn't know what made me happy with myself. And so I took that first step in that journey and figuring out what that would be like for me. And I realized how much freedom that actually brought me. And I desire to see every single one of you have that much freedom in your own lives and your own selves. So don't be afraid, you're not alone. You have the ability to turn that pain into power. You have the ability to turn any kind of challenge in your life into a stepping stone. Any challenge, this is another thing I want you to remember going forward. Any challenge that you have in your life, you were designed to be the solution to. You already have the answer. Even if you haven't found it yet, you have to know that you have the answer, that you can get that answer to that challenge. Because it wouldn't have came into your life if you weren't purposed to overcome it. So take that first step. Don't worry about if it's perfect. Don't worry about if it turns out perfectly. Just get this first step done and know that you're on a journey to overcoming that fear of not being enough, whatever that is in your life. Thank you.
You guys heard that he's a coach, right? Doesn't that make you want to go hire him? Yeah, I think you'd be really good. Chanel, would you come up here for a minute? We're going to do things a little differently here. You heard him say that you have a value, right? And happiness is part of life. This young woman right here, her name is Chanel Powell. She has a company called Art Worth Sharing. But you know what? If you can't share your joy and your happiness, what's the point, right? And let me ask you, when you first started with your art, was it perfect? Is it still perfect now? What makes it great?
The human hand doing it, not a machine, right?
And it's all unique, right?
Right.
You guys are all unique. But are you sharing what you know how to do? Or are you waiting to be perfect? No, don't wait. So this young woman right here, she has a beautiful talent. Beautiful talent. And she's sharing this talent with others, which is why she's called it Art Worth Sharing. But not only that, she has a passion for helping you see your gifts through the sharing of her art and music. Talk to me about the music for a minute.
That is a bit of a past cycle of my journey. I was married before, and I had a spouse that we both were a duo together. So after that ended, I went on and did a solo project, and this was in 2013, so almost 10 years ago. So yeah, I have a SoundCloud and videos on YouTube, so you can check that out.
Can you hear the music? She's bringing that back out. Why'd you wait 10 years? So let's hear why. Let's hear her version of why she has Art Worth Sharing.
It is a good segue. Talking about done beats perfect, and the way I put it is it couldn't have happened any other way. There was a time when I had to awaken spiritually, so I would like to share that with you right now. Are you ready to talk about aliens and reincarnation in church? Because, yeah, that is the thing that I have kind of established or considered for myself, that I'm identifying as a Pleiadian starseed. And I'm not sure if you know, but in the Bible, Job 9:9, it mentions the Pleiades. And it says that, basically God created the constellations and all the stars, and including the Pleiades. And so it is something that we can talk about in church. Thank you, Reverend Randy, for the permission to. And starseeds are individuals who are believed to have originated from other parts of the galaxy, and they have incarnated on this earth. They possess spiritual powers. And so these kind of traits that are listed here, I have identified with those traits for a long time, just didn't really know what it was until I went through the 6 stages of awakening as a starseed, which I will go through with you. Stage 1 is a sudden divine experience. All right, so mine I call the red light experience. And this happened one day. I acquired a book that's about half this size, and it was meditation instructions for transcendental meditation. It's called I Am That by Swami Muktananda. And I was really adamant about following these meditation instructions because it said that you don't have to have a middleman to connect with Source or God. And I was very entrained or indoctrinated to believe that pastor was, my way to God. So I was raised in an AME church. So at this point, I really was passionate about meeting God. So I made a whole to-do, a whole fuss about the lighting candles and incense and just setting this mood. I'm gonna go and meet God, right? So I sat down and followed all of the instructions to a T, and boom, like that, I was in this red light. This sparkling red light was just everywhere, and I couldn't see my limbs or see myself anymore. All I saw when I looked up, down, all around was sparkling red light, like that background there. And I thought maybe I lit the room on fire with the candles, so I opened my eyes, and the room was perfectly intact. And I was so shocked and amazed by that moment. I didn't know we as humans could experience such a thing. And so that led me into stage 2, a change in attitude and beliefs. I became a seeker. I did all these things from reading hundreds of books on metaphysics and esoteric knowledge to doing plant medicine and sound healing. I even did priestess training, and what I learned through doing all these things was that my creativity was really getting heightened. It was really heightening. And I've always been a doodler, but now I noticed that my doodles are telling me something, and I will share that with you in these examples. If there's paper of any kind, markers sitting around, it's getting doodled on, right? So I did that drawing that's on the left side. And then the next day I was scrolling through Instagram and saw that post on the right. And I thought, wow, that looks a lot like what I just drew yesterday. And when I looked a little closer, I realized that I had finished reading a book that basically told me that the Pleiadians are the circle makers, the crop circle makers from a higher dimension. They're using sound, and it went into the whole technology of it. But since I was fascinated with it, that came out. And I was also reading another book by David Wilcock, and he believes that he's Edgar Casey reincarnated. So it was a quote from him, and the synchronicities are just all there. So I was like, wow, this is really interesting. Until the next thing happened, I received a tablet, an iPad as a gift, and I wanted to try out making art on it for the first time. So I downloaded Photoshop, and this was the first thing that came out. By the time I finished drawing it, I go, that looks like the Queen. Hold on. So I went on Google to get a picture of her to see how closely it resembled what I had drawn, and found out that her husband had died that day. And so I had actually channeled her or drew her at a time when I wasn't watching TV or the news or anything. Just, went on Google, and there it was. And that is the image that I was able to get, so you can see how closely I did draw her or channel her likeness. And also in the Google results, it was talking about how she might not be human. She might be a shape-shifting reptilian. So I was really like, wow, that is some more alien stuff coming through. But then it got really real. This is my drawing on the bottom right-hand corner. This was me just sitting at the park, doing some art at the park. I brought paper and a Sharpie with me. And I had drawn other things. It wasn't like I just drew that and went home, but I noticed that there was a TikTok video that I scrolled and found. And this image on the top right comes from the movie Independence Day, and these are all depictions of a rare species of aliens called the Nomos, which I had never heard of. But I thought it was interesting how my drawing incorporates pieces of all the other screenshots that I took from that video on TikTok. And so I started to know that it wasn't a coincidence anymore, that I was actually channeling while I was doodling. So I started doodling more and more, and as I doodle, I get into this trance or this meditative state that even surprises me afterwards. And I don't judge what I'm drawing because I had an urge to delete this or erase it after I drew it because I didn't like how it looked. I was like, this looks terrible, right? But I was surprised 6 days later to be on TikTok and see this video with Mark Zuckerberg on it talking about the metaverse. And this giant eye that I drew came off of the graffiti wall and became a real 3D kind of piece of art. And it was really mind-blowing. This is my favorite example when on January 29th, I drew this head while having an audience around me. My doodles have started becoming a little bit popular. And so a friend of mine who was watching me asked me, do you ever name your characters when you draw a head like that? And I said, sometimes. I was like, let's call this one Lou. And then I wrote Lou and just like went on and kept drawing and, you know, entertained for a little bit more. And about a month later, I went to my friend Linda's house, and she was having a cards night, and they were already playing cards when I arrived, so she says, here's my husband Luther, here's my sister-in-law Sue, and here's my son Lou. And my reaction was, I drew you like a month ago. And so you can imagine how awkward that was, because this is what Lou looks like. So I had him and his mom confirm, yeah, you drew Lou. So I don't know what you think, but this is basically the awakening that helped me develop a spiritual understanding that I call automatic drawing. Have you heard of automatic writing? I call this automatic drawing. I think it's a spiritual gift of mine that I've been developing. It's a psychic ability, allowing a person to produce drawn images without consciously drawing them while in a meditative state. So this is what I believe that is a part of my spiritual awakening, because it led to me growing in inner love and beauty, to embrace that I can do that. I think it's pretty cool. It's, you know, like I told somebody about the Lou story and she went, ew. And I was like, no, not ew, I embrace it, you know? And so, yeah, being a psychic, empathic child was kind of rough for me. And so I have been recently embracing myself in my journey. And this is a photoshopped image of me hugging myself, the kid me, so that symbolically it represents my acceptance that this is my path. And yeah, this was all the inner child healing or shadow work that I had to do. And it wasn't easy, especially enforcing boundaries with parents, exes, and family, and not people pleasing anymore. So then, being at stage 5 is about spiritual healing, going from a victim of a narcissistic, codependent, emotional abuse type of environment to becoming a sovereign free spirit. And that's because in the Pleiades I learned that there's twin flames for everybody. And so you can imagine how when you're identifying yourself as a Pleiadian starseed, you're thinking that the relationships you're in are twin flame relationships, but they're actually false twin flames. And I did this back to back twice, 2 false twin flame marriages, that when they ended, it showed me that there were changes that I needed to make to survive. It showed me that I needed to have this awakening alone, that it wasn't meant for anybody else but me, and I'm totally alone right now. So, you know, those in and out relationships, even though they weren't perfect, they're done, and, you know, I've moved on. So that is why I'm at stage 6, the final stage, higher self union. And it's about receiving that divine guidance and channeled messages, as I have learned that I have that ability to channel also. So what I've gathered from my awakening after reading those books, interpreting my dreams, doodling, all that stuff, breakups, is this. Before humans, there was an alien, there were alien races existing on Earth, such as reptilians, Arcturians, and Pleiadians, to name a few. The reptilians brutally attacked the Pleiadians, and the Arcturians were able to escape by raising their frequency to a high enough frequency to become invisible, and they basically left Earth. But the Pleiadians, when they learned about the impending attacks, the brutal attacks that were happening, they became fearful, and they accidentally lowered their vibrations, and they couldn't escape the attacks. And this reptilian, Pleiadian, karmic cycle still exists today. Reptilians are shapeshifters who can come in the form of our government, our parents, even our kids, family members, and friends. And so I had to learn to keep my vibrations high in the presence of low vibes, darkness, and chaos without escapism of any kind, you know, and that is the key. In order to beat the reptilians once and for all, we starseeds must face our fears. And it's time to win, be free, and experience unconditional love. And so with that, I say thank you, and please join my group.
I bet nobody was expecting that. Very cool. You know, there was no way to truly, powerfully embrace love of yourself if you're crafting a mask of perfection. How many of you guys are crafting a mask of perfection? I would say that there is one thing that's probably pretty doggone perfect, and that's love. Love. This next speaker, I love to hear him talk about love and community. He could have any job that he wants. He's educated, but he chose to be a reverend to help others. Not only is he just a reverend, he's a reverend of this church. And this church has so much community outreach that for him to not talk about love just wouldn't do this church justice. So I don't really know what he's going to talk about today, but I hope he's going to talk about a little bit of love. But I do know he encourages each of you to boldly step out and take the life you want. Who does that? Do you take it? A friend of mine, Dean Storer, says you have to act like you're in possession of what you want. You already have it. Act like it's yours. So with that, I am going to bring up Vicky, and he's going to talk to us about why he does what he does, and probably something else too.
First and foremost, let me say that your talk was out of this world. So when I got the assignment for today, it was done beats perfect. And I quickly asked James, what does that mean? And James says, you know, done meets perfect. It's better to get something done than wait till it gets done perfectly. And so I started thinking about where in my life do I think about or get challenged by? And so I came up with this story. Richard Miller was just brand new out of college. He had gone and he got the ability to be an assistant deputy for agriculture. So they gave him his badge and they told him there's a job to be done and we're going to ask you to do it by the books. Make sure you do everything perfectly. And so there was two things he remembered. I got to get the job done and I got to do it perfect. And so he went out on his first assignment, 24 years old, put on his brand new suit, put on his brand new tie, white shirt, and was ready to go. And he pulled up into old Dudley's farm. And he got out of the car, and old Dudley came out and looked at him. He was just a young whippersnapper. And Dudley says, "What do you want?" And Richard says, "I'm here to inspect the farm. It's been 10 years since your last inspection. Today's the day it gets done." And Dudley says, "Oh, no, it'll be fine. I've been doing this a long time, longer than you've been alive. My farm is fine. Get on in the car, write that it's okay, and go home." And Dudley said, "No." Richard said, "No, I can't do that. I've got to get the job done, and I got to do it perfectly. So is there anything I need to know before I get started?" And Dudley says, "Well, here's the thing. I don't mind. You can look all you want, but stay off the back 10 acres. And Richard pulls out his badge and waves it in Dudley's face and says, "Do you know who I am? My name is Richard, and I am with the Department of Agriculture, and I can do whatever I damn wish on your farm. So don't tell me where I can go and where I can't go." And Dudley says, "All right, suits you." So they started talking a little bit more, and Dudley became a lot more cooperative, and Richard seemed to loosen up a little bit. And in the end, Richard says, "Okay, I got to do what you've asked me not to do." And Richard said, "I got to check out the farm." And Dudley says, "Do whatever you want, but I'm warning you, stay off my back 10 acres. Oh, Dudley was dead serious and said, "Richard, don't go." Richard pulled out his badge and he says, "Don't you know who I am? I work for the Department of Gaming and Agriculture, and I can do whatever I damn well wish. Do you understand that?" And this time he took his finger and poked Dudley in the chest. Dudley says, "That's fine. Do what you got to do, but you've been warned." "You don't warn me. Do you know who I am? I'm Richard, and here's my badge to prove it. I'm a deputy of..." He wasn't going to listen, so he started checking out the farm. He made his way to the back 10 acres and started looking around, and he was in the middle of the pasture when he looked across, and there was this 700-pound bull, and it was scraping its hooves on the ground and breathing real hard, and it started running straight towards Richard. And Richard screaming, "Dudley, Dudley, what do I do?" He says, "Show him your damn badge." So it's not important that we get things done in perfect every single time. It's real important that we understand the fact that sometimes our job is to get things done, but doing it from a state of spiritual knowing, spiritual awakening, spiritual truth, means you'll always do it perfectly spiritually. Let me say that again. You'll always do it perfectly spiritually. You see, I think most of us have our benchmark of perfect, and it still resides in this human realm. And I hear people say all the time, "Oh my God, I had the perfect day." And then I would say, "Well, what would you do differently if you had to do it all over again?" "Oh, well, I wish my daughter would have been with me. Or I wish my son would have been with me. Or I wish I would have done it sooner in life." And some say, "Well, was it really the perfect day?" Well, no, it was perfect for the moment, but there's things I would do differently. So here's the thing. If you're striving for perfect, it will never happen. So the easiest way to let somebody down after they've had a perfect day is to say, "Okay, well, what would you do differently?" Because they'll always come up with something different, something new, something they wish they could change. And so here's what I'm going to tell you. Life is not about being perfect. Life is about doing what you're being called to do, being where you're being called to be, and saying what you're being called to say. And for me, I believe that is a perfect life. We get so hung up on the fact that we are not doing everything we believe we're supposed to be doing that we don't even get a chance to live life at all. There was a Buddhist monk who was studying, and he was walking on his journey one day, and it was just the perfect day. The sun was perfect in the sky. The greenery and the flowers around him was just precise and magical. When he walked up to a stream and a river, and the water was just rushing so quickly, but he knew his job was to get to the other side. But There was a rocky place, but all the rocks had moss on it, so he knew he couldn't cross there. And there was another place where the water seemed a little bit shallow, but then it just dropped off to an abyss that he would never, ever be able to transcend or to transgress. And so he stood on the shore, pacing back and forth, wondering, how do I make it to where I'm going? And just as he was getting frustrated, he saw his Zen master, his Zen teacher on the other side of the river. And he said, teacher, tell me, how do I get to the other side? And there was dead silence. Thinking that the master must not have heard him, he said, teacher, I got to know, how do I get to the other side? Still silence, nothing. So at this point he was frustrated and he screamed out, damn it, how do I get to the other side? And the teacher looked at him and said, you're already on the other side. We are all striving to be someplace else. We are all striving to what we believe is perfect. But here's the thing I'm going to tell you. No matter where you are, no matter how you are, no matter what's going on, you are always on the other side. So you might as well enjoy the sun, enjoy the perfect landscape, enjoy the dream life that you have. And even when you know that you have someplace to go, don't forget about where you are now. Where you are exactly. Stop striving to be when it costs you all that you already are. So how many of us spend more time in our day wishing we were someplace else rather than being where we are designed to be? How many of us are spending more time in our day regretting where we once were or regretting where we ought to be instead of just enjoying and embracing where we are now? If you attend this church, you'll hear me say all the time, the only thing you have is now. Yesterday is a memory and tomorrow is your imagination. There is only one thing that is true, and that is right here and right now. So how many of you guys really want to activate your power?
Yes.
Yes.
Let me say that again because you guys obviously have been falling asleep during my talk, and that's not supposed to happen. How many of you really want to activate your power?
Yes.
When we were designing this, I should say when Isabella was designing this, I asked her, I said, why did you add the now onto activate your power? I think it sounds great to activate your power. And she says, because too many people are waiting to do it. So I'm going to encourage you to learn, like I learned, that it's not about tomorrow. It's about now. And I loved the slide. I don't know if it's still here. I'm going to borrow your slide because I think that it was, for me, it was very profound. First of all, let me just say we are all star seeds. If you guys haven't figured it out yet, we are all star seeds. The same dust that made the stars, the same dust that made this earth, the same dust that made this cosmos is the same dust in us. So if you were listening to this and going, that's interesting, that's you. It's just that she's realized it and now she's working with it for her highest and best. So I'm going to encourage you to find out what is your gift, what were you placed here to do, what is your star seed and why was it planted and what are you being called to grow into. So let me just put that out of the way. I also had my own red light my red light experience. It was in Amsterdam. I was 14. I was with my dad and he said, just get it done. It doesn't have to be perfect. So I just want you guys to know that I've also had my red light experience. Just for those of you who get it, amen. For those who don't, it's okay too. This is the one that got me. I've always been a doodler, but now I believe my doodles are telling me something. I love that word doodles. You know, it doesn't say shoulda doodles or oughta doodles or coulda doodles. It just says my doodles. So my question is, how many things are you shoulding and coulding and woulding rather than doing? Because I think if we all embrace all of our doodles, this is mine to do. This is mine to do now. This is mine to do in this moment. And if we had faith and will, I think we could get closer to what we often call perfection. I think we can, if we had faith and will, we can lead ourselves to a life that's fulfilled. Let's say that together. I want you guys to say this with me. Faith plus will equals a life fulfilled. equals a life fulfilled. Let's try that again. Faith plus will.
Faith plus will
Equals a life fulfilled.
equals a life fulfilled.
So here's my thing. You got to have faith that every message that is being downloaded into you, you have to have faith that you are put here for a divine purpose. And then you have to say, this is what I will do now. I will do the next step to get me to where I'm being designed to go. So say that with me. I will do the next step
I will do the next step
to get me to
to get me to
where I've been designed to go.
where I've been designed to go.
And I have faith,
And I have faith,
and I have will.
and I have will.
Today I start my life fulfilled.
Today I start my life
Say it like you
fulfilled.
mean it. Today I start my life fulfilled.
Today I start my life fulfilled.
Say it with dominion and power and act like you're claiming it. Today I start my life fulfilled.
Today I start my life fulfilled.
Say it like it's already yours. Say it like you know that you know that you know. Today I start my life fulfilled.
Today I start my life fulfilled.
For some of you, it's still just words, and I'm sorry. For some of you, it is a nudge, and I am grateful. For some of you, it's a push, and I say, get ready. Amen?
Amen.
All right.
You think he likes his job? Just a little bit. You think he loves his job? Yeah. All right, let's get some energy going because our next speaker is about energy. We have a couple Reiki coaches in here. Who is a Reiki coach? Can you guys stand up? Mhm. Let's give them some energy. Everybody stand up. Everybody stand up. I want you to say, done is better than perfect.
Done is better than perfect.
I
I
am not perfect,
am not perfect.
but I'm going to get it done.
But I'm gonna get it done.
Okay, shake that off. You guys sit back down. Our next speaker is James Griffin. You guys are pretty familiar with him. He's improving every time he comes up here. He's not trying to be perfect, but he's taking each step to be continuously improving. Not only in his speaking, but in his daily walk, with his actions. Are you guys trying to improve your actions? Are you trying to improve your thought process and your mindset? Because if you change your mindset, you're going to change your actions. And it's going to change your life. So let's hear a little bit about what James is going to teach us about done meets perfect.
What if everything in your life, the good, the bad, the pains, the joys, the laughs, and the cries, they have been for your highest and greatest good? What if your past has set you up perfectly for you to stand right now on the precipice of great change and transformation? What if the only thing you need to do is take that step, and in front of you is lying a buffet of choices, limitless choices and experiences, and the only question that's being asked, how hungry are you? How hungry are you? Because I don't know about y'all, I'm starving, famished. My stomach is touching my back. And it's May. And you know what that means. Are you asking or are you commanding? Are you stepping up to the buffet line and saying, may I? Or are you saying, I may? My name is James Trey Griffin with Love Larger, and I need a show of hands. How many people love food? I was just with my little brother the other day, and every time he gets something he enjoys, he does his little food dance. How many people have a little food dance? A little shimmy? Go back and forth, right? Eyes bulge. And so when we were eating food, so this was on Mother's Day, right? Sunday. It was also my dad's birthday. So I need to survey the audience. So dad's birthday and Mother's Day on the same day. What takes precedence?
Mother's Day.
Mother's Day?
Yeah.
I see y'all got our moms in here. I texted my dad first. I mean, you're only born one day, so I was like, So anyways, I texted him. We went to Red Lobster. Well, that's what he said. Let's go to Red Lobster, but make sure that your mom is okay with that first. So, okay, cool. So we go there, we get our menus, we sit down, and he's the first one that knows exactly what he wants. He tells the waiter, it's my birthday, I want a drink, and this feast. He's like, okay, cool, sounds good. Me, I'm a vegetarian, so I'm looking at the menu, and no choices for me. So I'm going like, just hook me up with something that's gonna fulfill me. He's like, I'll see what I can do. My mom comes around, she's always a person that's like, I go last. I don't know what I want. I'm looking at the menu. She's like, just let me go last. So it comes around to her, and she's still looking. And I swear, like, she was talking to the waiter for like 5 minutes, trying to figure out exactly what she wanted. She was like, I want this, but not that. I want that, but not this. And I'm looking like, dang, picky eater. So we go around, and the waiter takes our orders, takes it back to the chef. In the meantime, we're all present, enjoying each other's company. But then my mom, she's like worrying a little bit, making sure that hopefully that everything comes out perfectly. The person who tries to micromanage the chef, like the chef doesn't know what he's doing. Like hopefully he's doing the right temperature, hopefully he got the right order and all that. And when we finally get our meals, we all enjoy our meals. But then we have the people who, they play around with their food, right? They don't eat their meals. And I say this to say that, the points I'm making is, see, my dad, he knew exactly what he wanted, and he knew how to communicate it. You see, me, I didn't know what I want, but I knew how I wanted to feel. So I communicated off that. And see, with my mom, she had a little trouble, but at the end of the day, she got her order placed. In the meantime, after we knew what we wanted, and we knew how to communicate it, there was that waiting period in between. That's the period where you have to trust and surrender that once you put your order out, that the chef is going to make it perfectly for you. Some people, it's easier than others. It's easy to surrender. It's easy to have that faith and that resolve. My dad, me, my little brother, my sister, my mom, we were all kicking it, enjoying each other. But there was times when mom was asking questions, having those worries, those doubts, those insecurities, not knowing that what she ordered is going to come out the way that she needs. Having those doubts and those insecurities. So I say that to say, are you struggling with how you communicate what you want? Do you even know what you want? Do you know how you want to feel? Are you struggling with waiting and surrendering to the process, knowing that once you put your order up there, once you give your order to the chef, that it's going to be delivered at the right time? Because in the meantime, there's appetizers, there's samplers that's going to come out, and it's going to give you a little taste of what's to come. Now we have to be aware when those appetizers and those samplers come to our table. And the last, but not very least, when the plate is served, are you going to eat your food? Because a chef, he can put the food in front of you, but he can't make you eat. He can't make you pick up the fork and put the food in your mouth. Are you the person that's saying, I don't deserve this, I don't have the money, this is too nice for me? Are you the person that's saying, I'm gonna enjoy this meal and be as present as possible, with no worries or doubts in my mind. Ask yourself, where are you at in that journey? Now, I want to take you on a little journey myself. If you feel comfortable, I want to invite you to close your eyes. Take a few deep breaths. Now I want you to imagine a pink ball around your heart. And I want you to breathe into that ball. Breathe into that pink ball of love surrounding your heart. You see, this ball of love is the ball that's supporting you, giving you that compassion and that love that you need right now. And on this next breath, I want you to imagine pushing that ball of love down your spine, exiting between your legs and making its way to the center of the Earth star. Now breathe in and imagine that ball just moving down your spine, out between your legs, going deep into the earth, making its way, touching the Earth star. Now when you make contact, now you have this cord of connection between you and the center of the earth. That means that you have 1,000 tons of support right now beneath your feet. And I want you to imagine platinum white light coming from that cord, coming up your legs, feeling your body. Feel this unity, feel this love inside, building momentum. It's accelerating. Now move that ball of love on your next breath. Breathe in and move it up, back through your feet, back through your spine, into your heart. And on this next breath, we're going to imagine this same ball of love exiting out the top of your head. And as it exits your head, I want you to place yourself into this ball. Breathe in and picture that ball of love exiting out the top of your head and see yourself in that ball. Now we're going up high, high, high into the sky, higher outside of Earth, into space, floating higher, floating higher, floating higher, through bands of light, red, yellow, gold, through this pink jello of compassion, higher, 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 until you see this golden doorway. I want you to go through that golden doorway. Now it's all white light. See, this is a place of limitless opportunities, instantaneous manifestation. This is a place of your highest self in whatever form that manifests for you. Call down your highest self in that moment and ask, first see what it looks like and ask that part of yourself, what do I need to see right now? What do I need to feel? What do I need to hear to help me get over whatever humps, bumps, and obstacles that's going on in my life at this very moment? Just sit with that. See, this is the place. This is God's kitchen, where anything goes. He's there to comfort you, to guide you, to love you, to support you in anything that you want in this life. Again, there's a buffet line of limitless opportunities and choices. Are you asking or are you commanding? Now, when you're ready, I want you to float back down through the door through the jello of compassion and love. Back down through the bands of light, red, yellow, orange, blue. Back down through earth, through the sky, into the top of your head, back down into your heart. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. Now imagine life being like your favorite restaurant. Awareness, acceptance, and action. Being aware of what you want and knowing how to communicate it. Accepting that once you place your order, the chef is going to deliver it perfectly for you. And taking action when that plate comes to your table. Are you going to eat? Or are you going to sit back and play with your food? What if everything in your life was perfectly made for you, done and perfect? It's just a matter of how you see it. Awareness, acceptance, action. This is how you take that step from fear to freedom. Knowing that exactly everything that you want, or maybe everything that you need, everything that you want to feel, is always going to be manifested for you in the right timing. Having that faith and having that resolve while you wait. Knowing how to surrender in the moment, be present as much as possible, and then taking action when that comes to your table. What if? Thank you.
We've heard some great things here tonight. Can all of the speakers come up here? Give them a round of applause. They've done a great job. They've had some really good teachers and coaches. They really have. So Randy and I and Isabelle are doing an event in June about a conference called Safe in His Arms. So if you want to hear more about it, come get a flyer. It's going to be in the Shawnee area. Everything will be on here. But I want you to give another round of applause for everything they've done. Thank you guys for coming.